You're listening to Free Mama Radio, where we believe you can have both a successful business and show up as the mom you want to be. I'm your host, Lauren Golden, a mom who built a full-time income working part-time hours. Now, I help other moms like you learn how to work from home on your own terms, take control of your schedule, and make more money so you can live a totally awesome, guilt-free life. I am on a mission to make sure that no mother has to choose between family and financial stability. So if you've been wondering, can I really have it all? This podcast will give you the answers.
All right. I think we're live, but we all know we have the dreaded Facebook delay, but I'm so excited. I'm just going to dive in and then I'll make sure that we're actually streaming here in a second. If you guys are just joining us for the first time, my name is Lauren Golden. I'm the founder of the Free Mama and the Free Mama Movement. And it looks like we're good to go over here on Facebook. So that's a good start so far on this Monday. We're talking all things parenting today, which means that I'm going to do a lot more listening than talking because this is not my area of expertise. In fact, this beautiful woman sitting next to me has been a tremendous resource for me, and I'm bringing her here today to hopefully be a tremendous resource for you guys as well. So here's what I want you guys to do. Tell me how many kids you have. I'm assuming if you're watching today, you have children. I know we have some free mamas who are like, for baby mamas, but we're not going to be talking about pets today. We're going to be talking about those little humans, but not just little humans, all the way up to your teen humans and probably even your adult children. I'm sure my parents would tell you that it's a never ending thing, but I'm not quite there yet. So we're going to dive in. So as you guys, I can see you guys saying good morning. I love it. Oh, 1 and 1 on the way, 2 kids. I love it. Tell me all about your stuff. Maybe give me ages too, so I can let Amy know. But we're going to go ahead and dive in here in just a second. I told Amy, I'm like, I want to introduce you my way, if that's okay. I'm like, I don't really want a professional bio because you can tell them your qualifications, but I'm like, I want to tell them how I know you. So a mutual friend in the online space actually sent an email to both of us, I think either last spring or the beginning of summer, just saying like, hey, I feel like you guys should know each other, like in this whole internet world of really wanting to help moms. In the free mama world, we say live a totally awesome, guilt-free life. But Amy, maybe you would say be totally awesome, guilt-free parents. I don't know. And so she's like, you guys should know each other. And I was on an 8-week RV trip at the time, which if you've been around, you guys know all about the chaos of that. And Amy and I sent an email saying, we'll connect at the end of the summer. Like when things got back to normal, like we'll set up a call or whatever. You guys, I think I made it like a solid 2 or 3 weeks into the summer where I was like, I can't wait till the end of summer. I need everything that Amy does and has. And so she's got this really awesome parenting course and a webinar and all the things. And I started consuming all the content because it turns out that while being a parent is challenging anyway, living in a tin can for 8 weeks with your family opens up even new challenges. And I was not my best parenting self. And so I very quickly realized that I needed some tools to not lose my mind on this thing that was supposed to be this beautiful, memory. And it was, but it didn't come out without its challenges. So I actually met Amy online before I met Amy, like we're talking today online. And so she made a beautiful first impression on me, and it just made me even more excited to connect with her. And we were joking that it's taken 9 months for us to finally set up this conversation with you guys, but I could not be more ecstatic to welcome you here today. So you guys, this is the amazing Amy McCready. She is the founder of Positive Parenting Solutions, and we're just going to have a ton of fun today. Welcome, Amy, to the Free Mama universe.
Lauren, thank you so much. Like, as you said, I can't believe we're finally doing this. I can't believe I'm here with all of your people, all the amazing mamas that you serve. So thank you so much for having me.
Absolutely. And I want to create some context for everybody about why this timing was so important, because I just got back in town from spring break. Amy actually just moved, and you guys know that how I feel about moving because we just moved in November. Like there's a lot going on. But when Amy and I picked back up this conversation at the beginning of the year, I was like, when we need to do it? We need to celebrate or honor, maybe is a better word, this 1-year anniversary of the pandemic, which I don't know about you guys, but I had spring break this past week. And it was actually when we got home from spring break last year, it was actually the day after we got home that the country really shut down and everything changed. And I had to learn, I got goosebumps because I still just feel so many feelings about it. We had to learn to become virtual educator facilitators overnight. And we had to learn as parents how to navigate something that was unknown and really scary and not have it maybe affect our children, even though they were also feeling the impact of the pandemic. And here we are 12 months later, and a lot of things have changed, but a lot of things haven't. And so I said, I'd really love to do this as almost like this commemorative, like, where are we now? Like, for those of us who are still struggling, for those of us who still have no end in sight to the virtual school, because there are certain parts of our country where that's the scenario that they're in. And I really just wanted to bring you in as a resource to lift everybody up, let them know, pandemic or not, parenting is hard, but it doesn't have to be as hard as I think it is when we're navigating it alone. And I know that's the position that I felt like I was in last summer. So Amy, I've gotten to meet you. Why don't you tell everybody a little bit more about who you are and your background? Like, I was kind of joking with you, like, were you always the perfect parent? Like,
oh, please.
How did you become the founder of Positive Parenting Solutions?
Well, first off, let's correct the whole perfect parenting thing, because we all know there is no such thing. And my kids will totally attest to that. In fact, whenever I'm with my kids, they always remember the things like, hey, Mom, remember the time you forgot to pick us up at school and we were standing there on the sidewalk? Like, these are the things that they remember. I'm like, oh, but anyway.
Remember when I took you to Disney World? Could we focus on that? Like,
I remember that. They remember when I totally forgot to pick them up at school. Tell me in the chat if you've ever done that. Probably not, but I have. But anyway, in terms of my background, so now I'm the founder of Positive Parenting Solutions, and we are the leader in online parenting training for parents of toddlers to teens. We serve parents all over the world, and it's just the best job ever. Maybe not as good as Lauren's job, but I think it's the best job ever. And so I didn't start out wanting to be a parenting educator. I had a career in business. I was a senior manager for a Fortune 100 healthcare company and like did all that corporate stuff. I was a stay-at-home mom for a while. I feel like I've done part-time work. I feel like I've done everything. But when my kids were younger, I was really struggling with just kind of the normal kid power struggles. And like, I felt like I was reasonably smart and I felt like I was a loving and nurturing person, but nobody teaches you how to deal with a tantrum in the grocery store or like flat out defiance or the bedtime battles, right? Like, no,
my daughter walking
can learn this stuff.
Do you see me? I'm like, go. I said 1 hour.
That's what I'm doing with the electrician who is running around my house right now. Get, I'm going to call.
It's real life.
Oh, it's real life. But anyway, long story short, I was struggling with my kids. I was kind of a yelling mom, and I didn't like that because I would just go to bed feeling so guilty about the way the day went. I didn't want my kids to remember me as the one who always yelled at them. And so I just started studying parenting training. I read every book, I took classes, I just totally immersed myself in that. And it's just kind of like, you know how life rolls, right? Like the things that you struggle with the most often present the biggest opportunities. And I decided that I didn't really want to do my whole big corporate job anymore. I really wanted to follow this path and help other parents. And so I created a training program, and I did it, you know, in YMCAs and churches and all kinds of places for years, and then moved it online. And we've been doing that ever since. My husband and I started as two guys in a basement with our video camera, and you know, like so many of your members just starting their own business from nothing. So that's why I love what you do so much, because when I was starting my business, I would have loved to have had the Free Mama resource just to kind of guide me through that. So, but anyway, that's kind of how I ended up in this place. The struggles that I had led me to serving parents, moms, dads, grandparents, teachers, anybody who cares for kids.
Oh my gosh, I love that. And we're going to talk about that a little bit because, you know, starting a business, even with your kids as maybe your primary motivator to do that, to be able to work from home, also comes with its challenges. So just so that I'm all about communication, expectations and boundaries here in the Free Mama community. They hear me say those three words all the time. I want to set your guys' expectations for how this is going to go. So I've got some questions that I've already prepared that very selfishly I'd like to ask Amy. And then also we will take some of y'all's questions. I have some for those of you who filled out our form in advance as well. So we're going to just keep this really casual. We're going to do a Q&A. I've also got the chat pulled up. So if you guys have questions, it looks like the theme of today, Amy, I don't know if you can see the chat. I'm seeing the word tantrum over and over again. So maybe we need to address the moms who are watching right now with children melting down in the background. And we'll, maybe we should start there actually. You know, all the people who are sitting there going, I just want to listen to this thing about becoming But the irony, right? Like my kid is literally on the tantrum right now.
Exactly. All I want to do is get through this call. So whether you are dealing with a toddler tantrum or a teenage tantrum, they kind of have the same foundational source, if you will. So, Lauren, you know this. We always talk about the two buckets that have to be filled, right? There's an attention bucket and a power bucket. And with so many misbehaviors, if we aren't filling the attention bucket and the power bucket sufficiently, proactively, in positive ways, then we see behaviors start to go a little haywire. So like right now, when everybody is home with their kids, like we're home with our kids, we're in the same space, but very often we're not really proactively filling the attention bucket like they need for us to fill it, like one-on-one proactive attention. Or we're not giving them enough positive power, meaning enough independence, control over their own world, giving them opportunities to make choices and make decisions and those types of things. Or we as parents try to hold the power by doing a lot of ordering, correcting, and directing. I don't know if you guys do that or not, but I'm kind of a very type A controlling personality.
Oh,
Not you. But my go-to is like ordering, you need to do this, stop doing that, ordering, correcting, and directing. Well, the more of that we do, our kids are more likely to push back. And like I've seen a lot of toddlers, like 2-year-old tantrums, like they don't have the communication skills to say, hey, mom, I really need for you to spend some one-on-one time and attention with me. My attention bucket is kind of low. Or mom, I really feel like you're bossing me around too much. Like they don't even know that that's what they're feeling, and they certainly can't communicate it. So what do? They tantrum, they melt down, they act out with pushing our buttons, doing the opposite of what we want them to do. So a lot of understanding these behaviors or understanding the strategies for the behaviors is figuring out why they're happening in the first place.
Oh my gosh, I love that. What a great refresh. I'm like, yes. Let me just sit back and self-awareness for a second, right? And like reevaluate. And I think one of the trickiest things for me, Amy, and I'm sure you've experienced this, and I'm sure with a lot of your students, is figuring out the fine line between some of these things, right? It's like, I see a lot of people in the free mama community, and I really coach to the business side because that's where I feel the most confident. That's my area of expertise. And a lot of people say things like, well, I have to entertain my kid all day. Like my kid demands a lot of attention. I have to entertain my child all day. Is that a true statement? Are there children who I know maybe everybody's buckets look a little bit differently, but how much, where do we identify these lines as parents with our children of like, you really have to be pouring into them all the time? And is it, this quality versus quantity type of situation?
Yeah, absolutely. And what you described, I hear so often, like I have to be entertaining them all day long. Well, that's not what we should be doing, right? Like we do not want to be the cruise director, the camp counselor, entertaining them all day long. So yes, kids have an attention bucket, and it does have to be filled daily with one-on-one, that's one parent, one child, attention. But when they are demanding your attention all the time, that's what we call undue attention. Undue attention is when kids are demanding your attention in inappropriate ways, whining, clinging, acting helpless, or at inappropriate times. You're on a Zoom call, you're trying to do some work, you're cooking dinner, but they're demanding your attention. That's called undue attention. So part of the strategy is giving them the attention that they must have. And it can be in little blocks, 10 or 15 minutes, if it's really focused one-on-one attention, doing what they want to do. And then at those other times, we're going to sort of wean them out of that demanding the attention. Because what happens is when they demand our attention with the whining or the acting helpless, and then we give into that, it totally reinforces that behavior. And so then we find ourselves day in and day out just getting totally exhausted because 100% of our energy is focused on our kids rather than on our business or our partner or, heaven forbid, reading a book or getting some exercise, the other things we should be doing.
Oh gosh. Okay. So we talked a lot about the attention bucket. The other bucket's the control bucket, right? We've got to have some autonomy even at a young age. And if you've ever seen pictures of my children, you know they dress themselves. So I've got that going for me at least. Yeah. We don't look good in our family very often, but we have a little bit of autonomy. So let's talk about power struggles. Because the reason I laughed when you said type A is because everybody watching who knows me knows that I'm like beyond type A. I mean, I like control. If my husband was here, you'd be able to hear him laughing in the next room. It's something that I've developed an even higher awareness of. Actually, entrepreneurship, shockingly, has been something that's helped me with that. I happen to have two of my three kiddos are also very strong-willed. They're the other females. So we're apple didn't fall far from the tree. How do we nurture that control bucket and make sure it's getting filled? And like, how do you see, you talk a lot about parents' personalities. Like how can I make sure that that's happening and not get in the way of it when that's my natural tendency?
Absolutely. So you know this, Lauren, one of the things that we have parents do in our program is go through a parent personality assessment. So you can understand your personality type, because those of us who tend to have more controlling personalities, more type A, we tend to invite power struggles in our kids. And when you think about it, it makes perfect sense, because the more that we want things done a certain way at a certain time on our schedule, and we do more of that ordering, correcting, and directing, what is our kids' natural response? Right? They're going to totally push back. So we controlling parents have a lot more power struggles naturally. So the key to that is giving them more positive power. So think about your day with your kids from the time they wake up in the morning until the time they go to bed. How much of that time is spent telling them what to do or what not to do? Basically ordering, correcting, and directing. So if you were like me, naturally, it would probably be 75% of my day would be basically telling them what to do or what not to do. So I have to be hyper aware of that. And so one of the exercises that I like for parents to do is actually make a list. So when your kids get up in the morning, what are all of the things that you find yourself telling them to do or reminding them to do? And put that list on a piece of paper. And then once you have that list, say, okay, how can I turn the responsibility, the power over to my kids? So for example, if it's the morning routine and it's getting breakfast and getting dressed and all of those things, how can I put the responsibility on my kids' shoulders so they're totally responsible? Because what I want for parents is for them to be able to sit down with a cup of coffee in the morning and have their kids totally manage their own routine independently. We shouldn't be sort of ordering, correcting, and directing through the routine. Or maybe for you, it's homework or bedtime. Whatever those things are, let's identify the things that we're typically reminding about, and then implement strategies from our toolbox that where you can get out of the reminding business, have your kids be responsible, and then also holding them accountable for that responsibility.
People are going to be surprised at what young age this can actually be started. Like, I think some people listening might be like, well, my kid's not in elementary school yet. Our kids, and I'm well, there is no perfect parent, and I do a lot of things wrong, but my husband and I have always been on the same page in terms of wanting our kids to have chores, cooperating around the house, getting that buy-in, helping pack their lunch, making those decisions. I think that is one area we have done pretty well. And I've noticed a lot of resistance, even just in the Free Mama community, of people underestimating how early their kids can get involved in some of these things. Do you think, is there a certain age? Does this vary wildly by child? Or when can all these people with children having tantrums right now, the toddlers, at what age can they start implementing some of these things that you just went over?
Well, the little things like 18 months to 2 years, you can really start implementing these strategies. And keep in mind, the more things that you have your kids responsible for doing for themselves, they get that sense of independence and significance, and they will be much less likely to throw tantrums and get power in other ways. So again, think about those different blocks of time throughout your day, in the morning, after school, evenings, whatever it is, and look at that list and say, okay, of these items on the list, which of these items could my kids do if properly trained? right? And so much of it, like the morning getting breakfast or whatever. Okay, well, we do some training on, what are the things that we need to get breakfast together. Then what we call control the environment, which means we bring everything into a kid-friendly mode. So I like to ask the question, if no adults lived in this house, how could these kids independently function? Right? So we bring everything down to kid level. And so they can get their own breakfast. They can get themselves dressed. We buy clothing that they can take on and off by themselves. The more of these things that they can do independently, then they're getting a huge sense of independence and power and control, because you don't have to be the one controlling everything.
Yeah. And that's the only place where my advice comes in is like, listen, if you want to start a business and you're still at a 9 to 5, you've got to relinquish some of your responsibilities somewhere. Like, I get it. Your husband is not as good at loading the dishwasher as you or whatever, but like, we've got to start backing off. See, I told you entrepreneurship was good for me with letting go of control.
Totally. And Lauren, one other quick thing, parents will always say, at school, my kids are so independent. They do all these things. Well, that's because our teachers know that our kids are so much more capable than we give them credit for. So as I said, start when they are very young toddlers. And one of the things that, the jobs for kids list that I'm thinking of in step 2, which is kind of like by age, starting at 18 months all the way through the teen years, just sort of the list of things. Okay, if you have a 4-year-old, these are the things that they should be able to do independently. And when you look at that list, there may be some things even in the earlier categories that they're not doing. And that's a cue for you. Oh, okay, I need to do some training. I need to turn over that responsibility and let them run with it.
Yes. Oh my gosh, so good. So one of the things I've loved about being in your world at Positive Parenting Solutions is, first of all, how many resources you have, but I love how practical everything is. It's not theory. In theory, I know I should yell less. I got it. In theory, I know that power struggles are not productive for my 8-year-old. And I know these things logically, but knowing something logically isn't enough to help you stop doing it. And so what I love about what you teach is you talk a lot about this idea of this toolkit, and you have all these different little strategies or tools. And it's like, it's not one size fits all. It's not every tool works in every scenario, but it's like the more you have in your tool belt, the better equipped you're going to be as a parent to kind of navigate this journey. And so one that really stood out to me was like the when then, but you have so many. So first, I'd love for you to explain the when then, because I want to make sure we get super practical for everybody listening. And I think that's a really easy one to implement and to remember. And then do you have a favorite tool that you think that would benefit everybody today?
Well, there's so many tools that I love, but when then is like the one that people will seriously stop me in the grocery store and be like, oh, I love this tool.
Because it's so simple.
It's so simple, and it is so effective at diffusing power struggles. And so, right now, whether your kids are learning at home still virtually or they're going out to school for in-person learning, why don't we talk about implementing when then around the whole getting ready for school thing, because that's such a difficult thing for parents right now. So a when then routine is structured so that the yucky stuff has to be done before the more fun parts of the day. So think about the morning routine, right? What are the yucky things or the things that you have to remind your kids about? Well, probably getting dressed, combing their hair, making their bed, come on, it's time to eat. Is your backpack ready? Like all those things. So we structure the when then routine so that all that yucky stuff has to be done first. And then there's a normal part of the routine that they're normally allowed to have, but that is more enjoyable. So your when then routine in the morning could be when your bed is made, you're dressed, you've had breakfast, your teeth are brushed, and your backpack and shoes are by the door. Then you can have 15 minutes of TV time if that's something you normally allow. Or then we could have some time together to play, to do whatever you want to do for that 15 minutes, filling the attention bucket, right? So after school, it could be when you're home, your backpack is hung up, you've completed your homework, and I've checked it if that's necessary for the age of your kids. Then you can have your 30 minutes of technology time, right? So we always structure a routine so that the yucky stuff has to be done before the more fun parts of the day. So that's kind of a win-then routine. But let's say it's just a normal thing, like, his normal job is unloading the dishwasher. Oh, I hate unloading the dishwasher. It's such a drag. All you have to say is, when you finished unloading the dishwasher, then we'll leave for soccer.
So
and that's all you have to say, right? But the key is, after you say the when then, you walk away. Right? Like, you don't stick around waiting for them to complain and negotiate, and it's so unfair. You state the when then, you walk away, and then if he wants to leave for soccer, let me tell you, he's going to get the dishwasher unloaded, right?
Oh, so good. The walking away is key, and I love how much you emphasize that in your course. It's like, then you're quiet, and I'm like, it's also a good sales tactic, by the way, too. Like in sales, right? So here's your business advice, everybody. It's the same concept. You say your piece, you say what your offer is, how much you charge. And then you're quiet and you let them process and it's the same. There must be the same psychological thing happening between those things. Oh my gosh, so good. Do you have?
I was just going to say, if in the comments, if you guys just kind of want to maybe post some of those things that you typically are reminding your kids about, and then we could say, okay, that's how we could transition it into a when-then routine. And McKinley from our Positive Parenting Solutions team is here, so maybe she can just comment on some of those as well.
Yes. And thank you for giving McKinley a shout out. She is amazing. And so you guys, I'm sure you've already seen her in the chat, but if you guys have questions, she's literally here to help answer some of those. And then we might be able to have some time to go through some of those with Amy as well. Let's keep making our way down my list, because I do have some free mama questions on there as well. I've already said this, I'll say it again. And I say it so that people know they're not alone, but you've already identified that you were this way too. My least proud parenting quality is I'm a yeller. It's effective, except it's not, right? It's like effective in the moment. It's like, well, you weren't listening to me when my voice wasn't loud, and now it's loud and you're paying attention. But it does this thing that you referred to earlier, where you go to bed feeling like crap. Like you just don't feel good about your relationship when that's your effective communication. It's not really effective. It's just loud. How do we get out of this habit? What are some strategies or tools that we can begin to implement to get away from the ugliness that is yelling?
Yeah. And I think, first off, let's give ourselves all a break, right? Every parent is going to yell from time to time. I think the degree to like how much you yell is directly related to what other tools or strategies you have, right? If you don't have a toolbox of strategies that you can use, you're going to resort to that. But to your point, what happens when we yell is we train our kids to become parent deaf. Right. So what we can be talking in our normal voice, but they don't think we're serious until we yell. And so we yell and they're like, oh, okay, I better like spring into action because she means business now. But we don't want to get to that point. So the first thing that I would want you to do, and again, I'm all about sort of assessing what has happened and like making lists, right? So think about yesterday or the past week, or, if you want to do this in the upcoming week, and really write down on paper those things that you are yelling about, right? And so it's probably the typical stuff, right? It's technology. They're not turning off the devices when I ask. They're not doing their chores or family contributions, as we call them. And then once we identify what those things are, then we say, okay, I need a tool or a strategy for that. So if it's the family contributions, you're constantly getting on them to pick up their toys or clean up their room or empty the trash or whatever it is, then we know, okay, we turn that into a when-then routine. Now we've eliminated one of those triggers. So the first step is eliminating as many of the common triggers as possible by implementing the tool that makes sense for that. If it's a technology thing, we might implement the 5 hours of consequences, and we can talk about that. So that's the first thing, eliminate the trigger. The second thing is, don't feel the need to deal with it right in that moment. I think so often we are triggered and boom, we yell. So if we can just train ourselves to just walk away in that moment and then give ourselves a breather, go outside, whatever you have to do, and then come back and deal with it. The situation's still going to be there, right? So just try to not deal with it in the moment when you're emotionally upset, because your kids are going to get upset and it's just going to be this ugly spiral. The other thing I would say about yelling is that we can't go from like yelling all the time to magically being a non-yeller, right? So it's like little baby steps. So I like to just kind of, frequency and intensity. How often am I yelling? And how crazy loud am I yelling when it happens? If we can start to see improvement in ourselves in those two areas, then we know that we're making some progress.
I'm so glad you added that, because what I was going to say after reading some of the comments, and I see a couple questions. Oh, now they're coming in super fast. One of the things that I saw, I can just relate to as well with a couple of my kids is I yelled, and then now I've created yellers, right? It's that like, they do what you do, not what you say. And if you haven't gotten there yet in parenting, then surprise, that's what's going to happen when your baby into a toddler and child. So what I love that you're saying is like, it's this, none of this stuff that we're talking about today, and correct me if I'm wrong, it's never too late. Like you can always course correct. Like it's not like your kids reach a certain age and it's like, well, you might as well just keep yelling at this point. I'll just throw them the top. Like you can always make these steps to course correct where you want to go and show up as the parent you want to be. And so I'm so glad that you added that.
One other quick thing, if you don't mind, is if working on not yelling is something that you're serious about, bring your kids into that process. They will love this. If you have the conversation and say, you know what, you remember yesterday and we had that big blow up. I just don't feel proud of that. That's not the way I want to talk to you. I want to show you more respect when we have conversations. So this is something that I'm really working on, is using my calm voice, and I need you to help me. So let's figure out some sort of a nonverbal. And so, whatever it is, like they put their hands over their ears or they put their hands over their heart, like whatever it is, but there's some verbal that they give to you in the moment when you're starting to, get that big voice coming on, or that, frustration. That will be so empowering for them. Again, ways to give kids positive power. And it'll be a really helpful reminder to you in the moment. Now, the key is, in the moment, like you have to respect that. You can't be like, well, you're not listening to me and I'm going to keep on yelling. Like the minute they give that nonverbal, you're like, you know what? Thank you so much. I'm going to take a break.
It's accountability.
Exactly. Because one of the tools that we always talk about with our kids is the do-over, right? So you can have this conversation, if they've been doing a lot of back talk or sassy attitude or that kind of stuff. You can say, that conversation we had yesterday, I know you didn't mean for it to come out that way, but the way I perceived it, it felt a little disrespectful. And so in the future, if that happens, I'm just going to give you a little nonverbal. I'm going to do this, the little redo, or again, the hand over the heart, whatever it is. And that's the cue to them that they need to just kind of restate that in a more positive way. But if you do that first and you sort of model that, that's a great way then to transition to maybe the way they talk, their tone of voice, their attitude.
So good. Okay. So I want to kind of bring us back to support those moms who, we're talking about, we've been doing this for a year. There's a lot of people who are still at home with their kids. So maybe they're juggling, they've got a 9 to 5, they're working remotely, they're watching their kids and trying to make sure they're, doing their virtual school when they're supposed to, and they're trying to build this business on the side, and they've got a lot going on. So, I guess, what's your advice to moms who feel like they're juggling? What maybe restated another way, like, and I didn't prep you for this, but what is your opinion on balance or work-life balance? And when it comes to parenting, how do we get what we need, but also make sure our kids get what they need? What does that look like? What can that look like?
It is so hard. So, you asked me before what my favorite tool is, and I think this is probably a good time. Can we talk about mind, body, and soul time?
Yeah. Oh, God.
Because
I wanted to, but it's so.
Yeah. Because the answer to your question comes from that, plays into that. So let me tell you guys what mind, body, and soul time is. It's one of probably the favorite tool that I teach, because it's so effective in changing your kids' behavior. It makes you feel so much better about yourself as a parent. And it really makes a lot of those attention-seeking behaviors start to fall off the radar. So we talked earlier about this attention bucket, right? Like kids must have our positive attention. They're wired for it. They're going to get it one way or another. So we can either give it to them positively, or we can fight these attention battles, hour by hour, day in and day out. That's not what we want to do. So the tool of mind, body, and soul time is intentionally scheduling one-on-one time with your kids. So that's one parent, one child, when you are fully present in mind, body, and soul. So your computer is nowhere. Your phone is not anywhere in sight. Your partner is nowhere in sight. The siblings, other siblings, out of the picture. One parent, one child. And for that 10 or 15 minutes, you're doing whatever that child loves to do. So it would sound something like this. You know what, sweetie, I have to get on a work call in about 15 minutes, but I would love for you and I to spend some one-on-one time together, just me and you, doing whatever you want to do. What would be the most fun thing for us to do together in the next 10 minutes or 15 minutes? And so if it's doing Legos or reading a chapter book or, whatever, working on a puzzle, it's whatever that child wants to do. So what that does is positively and proactively fills the attention bucket, but it also gives them a huge power hit, because there are very few times during the day when kids get to call the shots, right? Because we're usually doing that. So for this 10 or 15 minutes, your kids get to decide what you're going to do together, and they have you all to themselves. It's a huge hit of power and significance. The reason I bring that up is because when you start doing that, your kids' behavior improves dramatically. Like, I wish I could read you the emails that we get from people every single day. They're like, this tool is mind-blowing because it works so well. So it's going to improve their behavior. But for you, where you're juggling everything, you never feel like you're doing anything well, right? Like, you don't feel like you're doing as well as you should be at work and with your kids and with your partner. This is an area where you can be like, yeah, I am totally rocking this parenting thing. Am I getting everything right? No. But when you are doing just that 10 or 15 minutes a day, just once a day, start with that. And then if you can do another 10 or 15 minute block some other time during the day, I just can't tell you how much better you're going to feel about things. And then the other way that you can use that is if you have a conference call coming up at 2:00, you do some proactive mind, body, and soul time. So you schedule the mind, body, and soul time before your conference call. So their attention bucket is full and happy. And so you could say, okay, I'm going to be on this call for the next 45 minutes. So you can be working on your schoolwork or playing or whatever you're doing. And oh, by the way, here's a tablet that I'm going to put out in the hallway. So if you think of anything that you need or you need to tell me, you just write or draw it on that tablet. And then as soon as I'm done with my call, then we can talk about whatever that thing is. So doing that mind, body, and soul time proactively solves so many problems. It doesn't make everything perfect, but I'm just telling you, it is a total game changer in terms of the way you feel about your parenting and your overall balance. Would you agree with that, Lauren?
Oh, yes. That is actually, I would say, the number one thing that we were able to implement. And I say we because my husband did not go through the course, but this was one of the things that I brought to him immediately when we were on our RV trip last summer. It was the fastest to implement because it's like, okay, 15, well, it's today. So let's do that today. And for us, we have 3 kids. There's 2 of us. So for 1 hour every night for the rest of our trip, we would just rotate. Everybody got a 15-minute block with each parent. And of course, we were traveling at the time. So it was like, we could go to the park at the RV site, or we could go on a hike, or we could sit inside and like you said, read a book or do whatever. And so I will say, of everything that I've learned from you, Amy, that was the one. It's fast to implement. And I think for me, it was the most impactful for how I felt about myself, which, maybe that sounds selfish, but when you're going to bed every night feeling like you're failing, you don't exactly wake up like ready to be your best parent. And for you to go, you know what? No, like I spent quality, not quantity, but quality time letting them do what they cared about and really honoring who they were. No cell phone, no distraction, no sibling competition. It really is a special thing. And and it's so simple and it's so simple. It's really crazy. So I'm thrilled that you just shared that with everybody. I think that is amazing.
I'll tell you 2 more things on that.
Please. So
the first thing is we get emails all the time from, parents who are learning these tools. And the one that came in this weekend that I love, she said, I'm a homeschooling mom and I'm with my kids all the time. And because I'm with them all the time, I thought that I was giving them a lot of attention, but we were still having all these crazy behaviors. So that's what she started doing, the 10 to 15 minutes of focused one-on-one time. And she said, it's like a totally different house right now. But there's, especially now, since we're all working at home and our kids are learning at home, we think we're giving them that attention, but it's just not the same. And then the other thing, what was I going? Oh, so back to the question you asked at the very beginning about like feeling like you have to entertain your kids all day. This gets out of that situation, right? Because you are giving them the intentional positive time, just like you described. So you don't feel like you have to be the entertainment director the rest of the time. You know, guys, you go play on your own. This is the time when I'm going to be sitting at my desk doing my work. We've had our one-on-one time together. So it really gives you permission, if you will, with a clean conscience to be like, you know what, guys, you're on your own. I'm going to be doing my work right now.
Yeah. And if my husband was in here, he would say he wants our kids to be bored because bored kids are creative kids.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Mr. Golden, the parenting expert. He's on now. He hears me bragging about how great he is. Okay, so we have a couple questions from our free mamas that they submitted beforehand. So one of our free mamas of a toddler wants to know, how do you talk to your child? It sounds like maybe we're getting into kind of a discipline type conversation, but she specifically has a toddler. And this is also kind of maybe rationalizing with the children who's maybe children that when they're not feeling rational. So she's specifically asking, like, how can I talk to my child when I can't even get them to sit still? You know, if they're kind of flailing around. But I think that this also works emotionally. Like, how can you, I don't know if it's how can you or can you talk to a child who's emotionally all worked up?
Okay. So I have to just, my teammate McKinley reminded me on the Mind, Body, and Soul Time thing to make sure, guys, that you label it, call it Mommy and Jason time, Daddy and Sarah time. Like, calling it a thing makes it so much more powerful. That's super important. Thanks, McKinley. All right. So talking to a 3-year-old, or really a child of any age, when they are, and I'm going to assume that they're sort of, in an escalated state, right? They're super upset about something. Well, the key thing is to just stop talking, right? Your job in that moment is not to be talking. Your job is to help them get to a more centered state, right? To help them calm their bodies and calm their emotions. So what you would want to do outside the moment is what we call take time for training on calming your big emotions, calming your body, practicing the belly breathing. For those of you with little kids, if you Google or go on YouTube and just search for the Elmo, like from Sesame Street, Elmo belly breathing, that's great for little kids. So you practice that outside the moment. And then when they are escalated, your job is to just kind of be the bridge to transition them to practicing those strategies that you've already talked about before. But don't try to resolve the issue. Don't try to discipline any of that kind of stuff in the moment when they're upset, because they're not listening, right? Their reptilian brain is on fire. And like, we're talking and nothing is getting through. So we're getting upset. They're getting more upset. So just remember your job description in that moment. It's to help them calm their bodies, their emotions, regulate their breathing. Then when everything is calmed down, then you can deal with it. And, if it's a discipline issue, if it's a training issue, if it's a routine issue that we need to address, then you can do it when everybody is in a better position to talk rationally and hopefully listen effectively.
Yeah, that's something I'm definitely still working on, is not feeling like I have to deal with things when they're happening and recognizing that you can come back to it. I haven't watched the Elmo video, but I will say shout out to Daniel Tiger, who taught Audrey how to take deep breaths. It's when you get so mad that you want to roar, and she does it. She does it on her own. She'll count down from 4. She takes a huge deep breath, and I'm like, it's actually really quite impressive. I'm like, we somehow missed that episode with my other kids, but my youngest, she really does know how to self-soothe, and it's really miraculous. So that's a great technique that I think is, if the younger you can get them to learn that, I think.
Yeah. It's such a gift, right? Because, as adults, it's, we get triggered so easily. And so if we can teach that to our kids, and whether it's through music or, even just putting a headset on with, an audio book that's very soothing and relaxing, just helping them with some transition strategies out of that super escalated moment, And again, that's power, right? Like when you have some control or influence over your own situation, whether you're 3 years old or 13 years old, that's a huge sense of power to kids.
Oh, so good. Okay, so I have an observation from the Free Mama.
Yep.
So like I said, this is a community of women. They're working, a lot of them already, or they're starting their business. Maybe they're already full time in their business. Some are doing both simultaneously. And we touched on this a little bit, but I'd love to hear your thoughts. You heard me say at the beginning, the mission of the Free Mama is to help moms live this totally awesome guilt-free life. That's not in there by accident. I think that's something that, maybe all mothers experience to an extent, but I think in kind of our status quo, our environment, we have this expectation. What's the quote, Amy? We're expected to parent like we don't work, and we're expected to work like parents, or whatever that meant. Like, what do you think about mom guilt? And obviously we now have the mind, body, soul time. Do you have any other things that you would just say maybe to the women who are listening, who are really struggling with their feelings emotionally as parents, and women who want to build something for themselves?
Yeah. And this is so hard. And I think that we're just, as women, we are just sort of wired for that. Like I think we tend to focus on all the things that we're not doing as well as we want to, rather than really celebrating all of the things that we are doing. So, in your various aspects of life, let's start with the parenting piece first. So again, let's really work on the things that make the most difference, like the mind, body, and soul time. Like that relieves so much of your guilt. And the fact that you're in this Free Mama community, just you're working on the things that are important to you, creating a better life for you and your family. And if the parenting thing is, obviously it's important to everybody, but just always be working on that. It's just, I think we're always going to have some of that guilt, but just recognize that you are the kind of person who strives to do the best they can do. They're always learning. They're always educating themselves in the key areas, whether it be business or parenting or their relationship with their partner. And that's about the best that we can do, right? We're never going to make this perfection thing. And again, like the whole like Instagram thing, and everybody is so perfect. And I think it makes it so much harder for us now, don't you?
I do. And that's why, even before we went live, I said, I'm like, well, we're just going to like wing this, because that's kind of like my style. I'm kind of the and I think it's maybe because it's something I crave seeing more of, right? Like I want to see people mess up, because it makes me not feel bad when I mess up, or I'm talking to you and we're all on this even playing field, and social media makes us, it's the illusion that we're not. Something I'll say, because I've definitely had moments where I'm like, I'm just failing as a parent. And I love what you said about like, I'm someone who always strives to learn, and I always strive to do better. And I know that those things are true about me. And I know that if anybody is here watching, that those things are true about you, or you wouldn't be here. And I think that's what makes you a great parent. Like that, and remind yourself of that maybe when you feel like you are failing. You're not failing, you're doing something about it. And like Amy said, that's all we can do is, keep trying to keep it on.
Yeah, exactly. And it's sort of like what we try to teach our kids. Like, I don't know if you've done any reading on the growth mindset, Dr. Carol Dweck's book, which I love, but like, that's one of the things that we're always talking about with our kids. Like, you are really working so hard on that. You are really improving, your perseverance, like all those things. Those are the things that we want to reinforce with our kids. It's not whether you got the A or you scored the goal, like whatever, who cares about that? It's all those things that created that opportunity for you to make progress. And if you can think about sort of the big red arrow, right? Are we making progress along the continuum? If we are, let's stop and celebrate that. And I promise you that you are. But again, our tendency, I think, is just to focus on the areas where we're just, where we think we're not hitting the mark.
That's so good. And actually multiple times, I think the first time we talked about it was at the Free Mama retreat a few years ago in person. We talked about this idea of like, can you imagine if we actually talk to ourselves like we talk to our children? Like you just said, like, we don't beat our kids up if they don't like get a perfect score on it. Like we just would not do that, but with us, we're not quite as gentle. And so that's very much a thing in the Free Mama community is like, no, let's cheer ourselves on the same way we would cheer our children on. So good. Okay, so I know we've kept McKinley super busy in the chat. We've covered a lot of different topics across the parenting spectrum. You do have a course, which I am a student of. Can you tell everybody a little bit more about what you teach them and what they could learn if they wanted to learn more from you and dive deeper on some of these topics and continue to add tools to their toolkit?
Absolutely. Yeah. There's 36 tools in the toolbox, and obviously we can't cover them all here. But the way our course is set up, it's in 7 steps. It's called the 7-step parenting success system. And in those 7 steps, you learn all of those tools. So whether you're having issues with, defiance or backtalk, or you want to learn how to structure consequences really well, or you want more on how to fine tune your routines. There's 36 tools in the toolbox that teach you how to do all of those things so you can get out of the reminding business and the nagging and the yelling and all those things that we don't want to do. So the 7 steps teach you all the tools. And then there are a ton of advanced modules on various topics. So if you're having bedtime battles, there's an entire session on that. Mealtime battles, chore wars. Think of all the typical power struggles that you have. If you have kids with differences who have anxiety or ADHD, if you're struggling to get your partner on the same parenting page, if you're struggling with technology. So in addition to the tools that you learn in steps 1 through 7, there are all these in-depth modules on individual specific topics. And our thing is, we don't want you to have to work hard at this. We want to basically give you the recipe. All right. We've done all the work for you. All you have to do is follow the plan. So you can enroll in the course, you have lifetime access. And then depending on what level you enroll at, we also have coaching. So for those folks who enroll at the gold level, they have a year of unlimited coaching calls with me and our coaches. And those are so helpful. So we have a private Facebook page, just like you do for your students. So just tons of support, tons of coaching to really help you be the parent that you've always wanted to be.
So good. And I can't emphasize enough how practical it is. I think that's what was really so useful to me, Amy, was I knew where I was at. I needed a life raft in that moment. I really did. I was kind of I'm ready to turn this thing around and go home, because the level of frustration at certain times throughout our trip was making the highlights seem really small, right? It was it was input impact. I'm I don't know, I can't do this. And so I love, the mind, body, soul. It was we could take it that day and implement it. When then I could take it and I could implement it. It's not complicated. It's not over your head. It's almost so simple that it's we're operating in the moment, and we're kind of always spinning in this survival mode. And so for me, positive parenting solutions was a way for me to get out of that. It was I can't keep sustaining in the day-to-day. I have to try something different so that the result for my family looks different. And I absolutely love it. I think it's so fantastic. So we want to do something really special for you guys. I told Amy, I was we when we invite people into this community, which I don't take lightly at all, I screen everybody like crazy. I'm no, this is the free mama. These are my people. And so when we have partners come in who we think will enhance your business and your life, in this case, your family, your parenting, your family life, I always want to make sure you guys know that I really believe in the product. And in Amy's case, I'm a student. I'm a byproduct of her product. But we want to give you guys some extra special stuff as well. So if you guys were here last year when the pandemic started, you know that we did a series to try to help you cope in your business and your life and in your own mind, body, and soul with all of the changes that the pandemic caused. And we did a series with over 40 speakers called Free Mamas Unite. And we're going to give you guys access to that. You guys can't find it here in the Facebook group anymore, but we're going to give you guys access to that entire training program when you guys also decide to enroll in Positive Parenting Solutions. And we hope that this will be a comprehensive guide for you right now, no matter where you're at, to meet you where you're at. If you're still in survival mode, either because of the age of your children or because of some situation going on, or just because of the, lingering effects of the pandemic, we really want you to know that we're here for you and we support you. And I can definitely say that Amy McKinley and their entire team, they value their students and their community with the same level of attention that you guys get here in the Free Mama. So I know that you will be an absolutely fantastic hands. So I do want to make sure, I know McKinley's in the chat. Every time I see a comment, it's from, I'm like, she is so on top of things. I mean, she's got a resource for everything. You guys, Amy's email list is gold. Like everything that they send out is just so practical and so timely. And I'm so grateful. We've got a little bit of time left. So if you guys have any questions for Amy that she can answer, or questions about positive parenting solutions, let me know. We've got a link over there for you guys in the chat. If you sign up as a free mama, all you need to do to take advantage of this opportunity where you can also get access to Free Mamas Unite is send us the email after you enroll in Positive Parenting Solutions. So just email hello@thefreemama.com, and we'll also get you access to our membership as well, so you guys can see all of those solutions. How does that sound?
That sounds awesome. I love it. I love it.
Well, I was going to say, do you want to go through the levels that people can enroll in for Positive Parenting Solutions? I think one of the things I was so surprised at, because I enrolled as a student before we actually even met, Amy. And I told him, like, oh, by the way, I already bought your course. Like, it saved my summer. Thank you so much. And I was surprised at how accessible it is. And I think that really speaks to highly of you and your team. I see Mia on here, and I know Mia enrolled after, because I got back and I'm like, she's like, my kids are driving me crazy. And I'm like, oh my gosh, you have to sign up for this program. I just did it. It's so amazing. So I know Mia, and I've seen several other people in the chat who it sounds like are already fans of yours and inside the community. But do you want to kind of lay out kind of the structure of joining?
Absolutely. So we actually have 3 levels: bronze, silver, and gold. And for the Free Mama community, we have, and the link that I think you're going to on the pricing page actually has a 10% discount and a free upgrade. And so that's the great thing, is that you can upgrade from bronze to silver or silver to gold. So since we're going to upgrade, there's no need to even talk about bronze. That's a very sort of limited program, 1-year access. So the silver has lifetime access, the steps 1 through 7, and the advanced modules that I mentioned. Also has access to our app. We're the only parenting program that has a really fully integrated app. I think we're the only parenting program with an app out there, but like if you're
on my phone,
it's super, super handy. So if you're out and about, don't have Wi-Fi access, you can do everything on the app.
I consumed the whole thing. Actually, I listened to it like from the road on my phone, which was amazing.
Yeah, absolutely. So you could do either the video or the audio. So the gold members have, again, the 7 steps with all the tools, the advanced modules, but that's where you get the more personalized support. So you have access to our gold Facebook group, and we have 2 groups, one for the littles and one for bigs, right? So depending on which age your kids are, and you can belong to both if you want, but we have ambassadors who are in there answering your questions all the time with really targeted, specific advice. Our parents love the gold Facebook group, and also the coaching calls. So we have calls throughout the week, weekends, day, night, because we serve parents all over the world. So all different times. And then you get on a call and you talk with me personally. And if you're having an issue with mealtime battles or technology or whatever it is, we hash it out. We give you an action plan and you are good to go. So just a ton of support with the gold program.
Fantastic. I see Mia. She's like, I need to jump in and refresh. And I definitely probably time for a refresh on my end as well. And she also said that her and her husband loved how direct you are. And I agree. It's there's not a lot of fluff. You guys can get really quick results, relatively speaking, right? Like you can start implementing things right away. And so it's not, this thing where it's like, oh, it's going to take 6 months of doing XYZ to start to see a change. You can really start to see changes in a matter of days. Does this include access for both parents in the Facebook group? That's a great question.
Yes, absolutely. So when you enroll, both partners can have access to the course and also the Facebook group. And we hope that you will both do it. I will also say that we have a lot of parents and they're like, you know what, my partner is not into this. Like he or she is not going to go through this program. Totally fine too. You can absolutely get the same results, even if your partner is not going through the program.
And I would almost speculate that at some point they might start to model some of the things anyway. I think it.
But you're exactly right. Because what I was going to say is when you start using the tools, what happens is that your kids begin responding differently. So where before you had a lot of back talk and sassiness and attitude and all of that, you will see a measurable difference, like you said, within the first couple of days in their level of cooperation, in their attitude, their willingness to help out. And your partner sees that. It's like, okay, like maybe there's something to this positive parenting solution. So you'll be modeling the tools. Your partner will see the difference that it makes with your kids, and they're going to be much more likely to at least be open to the idea and open to the tools.
Yeah, so good. And again, I feel like I'm getting all cliche with these quotes, and maybe I'm just thinking of a concept and not a quote, but there's this idea that like our children kind of offer us maybe like what we need, like there's this, it's like, oh, I'm a control freak and I want to control. I'm like, oh, maybe the power shot, like it's this opportunity for you to grow. And I remember listening. I remember what state I was in, Amy, and I remember listening to your thing. And I think it was maybe a recording from a live event. And you might remember, I don't remember what part of the course this was in, but I remember getting really emotional listening to it. And I think you had parents maybe paired up at your live event or listening to audio, and they were like role playing a scenario where one was the child and one was the parent. And I remember getting a little emotional because I was able to see the things I wished I could change about myself in that scenario. And, for a minute, I think I felt badly, but then I felt grateful that I could see it differently, how I wasn't seeing it before. And I think that awareness is what will really cause lasting change. Do you see that with a lot of your students?
Absolutely. And when you get in and you start to understand why these behaviors are happening in the first place, like all behavior is telling us something, positive or negative, all behavior is telling us something. And when you see those negative behaviors and then you say, okay, now I understand why this is happening, it really allows you to put yourself in your child's shoes and feel how it feels to a child. Like when we respond in a certain way, when we yell, whatever it is, like you feel it from the kid's perspective. But the empowering thing is once you learn those tools and you no longer have to do the yelling or the barking orders or that kind of thing, you feel just so empowered. Like you're moving your kids towards better behavior, but in a positive, loving, and respectful way.
So good. I just want to thank you so much for your time. I think that this was so beneficial to so many people. I've seen so many like, oh my gosh, I'm going to go back and watch this with my husband tonight. Everybody's going to be rewatching this. And so I'm just so grateful for that. And for anybody who wants the rest of these tools that you can, I think we talked about 3, 4, 5, maybe like laid the framework for a couple things like our 2 buckets, like we covered a lot of ground in 1 hour. But if you guys want the whole arsenal to be able to add to your toolkit and be able to, interact with your children in a more effective way where you feel empowered, like Amy said, you're going to feel empowered at the end of the day instead of feeling guilty or shame or just blah, about the way that you've been interacting, then I really encourage you to check out this program because it's very, very good. And I can tell you that from a very unbiased personal opinion. And as a free mama, if you guys decide to join, you can go to PPS for Positive Parenting Solutions, pps.thefreemama.com to enroll. Shoot over your order form to Jordan at hello@thefreemama.com, and we'll get you guys access to Free Mamas Unite, where you guys can get over 40 additional trainings that actually a lot of them were pretty conversational, just like this. Some of them were full on trainings about things related to business, marriage. If any of you were like, okay, well, you just helped me with my kids, but you didn't help me with my spouse. We had 2 experts come in last year and talk about your relationship with your partner. And we've got things for self-care, it was just a wild spring last year, Amy. We did a lot of stuff. That was me controlling what I control.
That's right.
I was like, okay, well, I can't leave my house and I can't control anything, but I can rally together all my friends and give as much value as possible. So we're excited to bring that back kind of as a 1-year anniversary of the pandemic to share with you guys and hopefully offer you as much support on your journey as possible. Amy, do you have anything you didn't get to talk about or any closing thoughts for everybody?
Oh my goodness. So many things we didn't get to talk about. We need a whole day together.
Oh, I told you, I was like, we could do this for like a month. And
I know. But what about the idea that we had talked about doing a separate special coaching session for the folks who enrolled?
Oh, I'm down. Are you down?
Should we do that? Yeah, I think we should. And this is like, we didn't like pre-plan this. We talked about this a while ago.
Yeah, let's do it.
So for everybody who enrolls, let's invite them back, and we'll do a special coaching right here in Free Mama. And we can invite them via Zoom or whatever. So it'll just be a really targeted, personal coaching just for your group, for the folks who are in Positive Parenting Solutions also.
That sounds amazing.
That sounds fun. Let's do it.
Amy and I will get that set up. We'll pick a date. We'll let you guys know. Do we want to say if they sign up by like Friday, how long do we want to give them to plan?
You decide.
Okay, let's say if you guys let's say by Sunday. So we'll give you guys a week to sign up, and Amy and I will chat. We'll pick a day in the next week or two where we'll get that scheduled. We'll send you the Zoom link. And I'll get with Amy's team and make sure you guys all get that invite. That sounds like so much fun.
Yeah, and that way you guys can like dig into the course and then come to the coaching session and like talk about what questions you have, or how do I apply these tools to this behavior, and we can work through all of that.
Oh, that sounds so good. I'm going to do a refresher, and I'm going to bring my coaching call. Oh, I'm so excited. Amy, thank you so much. You guys, again, go to pps.thefreemom.com. Let us know you enrolled so we can not only get you access to Free Mommies Unite, but also make sure you know about this private coaching call with Amy and myself. That sounds like a ton of fun. I'm super excited. Thank you guys for being here. And again, I hope that you guys learned even just one thing today that you can start trying to implement. And I guarantee you that if you implement what Amy teaches you, you will start to see results in your family dynamic very quickly, because I've experienced it firsthand. So,
well, just the fact that, I mean, the people who are here watching this, like, it just says so much about the parent that you are already. So all we want to do is add a few more tools to your toolbox so you can just completely rock the parenting thing and feel so good about that balance that you're trying to achieve in the different aspects of your life. So Lauren, thank you so much for inviting me. Thank you, Mia, Free Mama community. Thank you so much for the privilege to be with you.
Thank you so much, Amy. You guys, I hope you enjoy the rest of your Monday. Make it an amazing week. Hopefully we'll see you inside Positive Parenting Solutions /Free Mama. And we'll be in touch with all of you guys soon. McKinley, thank you for your help in the comments as well. All right, you guys have a totally amazing day. We'll see you guys soon.
I hope you enjoyed this episode of Free Mama Radio. Don't forget to check out Free Mama TV right here on YouTube for hundreds of how-to videos and interviews to help you start, grow, and scale a virtual business from home. If you want to join a community of tens of thousands of moms just like you, make sure you join the Free Mama Movement group over on Facebook. And lastly, if you want to learn more about how we can do this together, work to achieve your goals, and make you our next success story, check out my free training at thefreemamamovement.com. I'll see you next time.